Okay, we're going to start going through the answers now to the starter, and we will start our lesson today. So welcome everyone to our GCSE Maths lesson. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at angles in parallel lines. Okay, we're gonna go through the content first. There's a bit of content that you need to know for this topic, and then we're gonna be looking at some exam questions, and then we'll finish off with a blocklet at the end. So I put this question up on the screen. This is a starter question from where what we did in our last Year 9 and 10 lesson, which was a couple of weeks back. We were looking at forming and solving equations. So we're going to go through this question first, and I am going to work it out on the screen now. Okay, so it says the diagram shows a rectangle and a triangle. The perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. Find the value of x. So when we're working out this question, let's read through it simply step by step. So it first of all says the perimeter of the rectangle. So if it says the perimeter of the rectangle, how do we work out the perimeter of a rectangle? We know to work out the perimeter of a rectangle, you just need to add the lengths of all the sides together. And we know that in a rectangle, opposite sides are equal. That means that if this side is 2x plus 7, that means the side which is opposite it, this side, is also going to be 2x plus 7. So let's just label that 2x plus 7. Okay, and we know that this side is x minus 5, which means that the opposite side is also going to be x minus 5. So we're just going to label those two down now. So now we've built ourselves a rectangle and it has four sides, and we need to work out the perimeter of the rectangle. So if we need to work out the perimeter of the rectangle, that means we need to add the lengths of all the sides together. So the first side over here is x minus 5. So we have x minus 5. Then we need to add 2x plus 7. So add 2x plus 7. Then we need to add this side, which is x minus 5, add x minus 5. Then we need to add this side, which is 2x plus 7, so add 2x plus 7. So we're just adding the lengths of all the sides because it's a rectangle and we want to work out the perimeter for it. Okay, so let's collect like terms. When we're collecting like terms, as you can see, we have x over here, 2x over here, x over here, and 2x over here. So we're going to add the x's together first. So x, add 2x, add x, add 2x. So x add 2x is 3x, 3x add x is 4x, 4x add 2x is 6x. So we have 6x in terms of x's that we have. Now let's add the numbers together. So we have minus 5 plus 7, minus 5 plus 7. So minus 5 plus 7 is going to get you 2. 2 minus 5, it's going to get you minus 3. And then minus 3 plus 7 is going to get you 4. So we're going to have plus 4. So we have 6x plus 4, and this is the perimeter of the rectangle done. Then it says the perimeter of the triangle. When we're working out the perimeter of the triangle, what do we do? Again, it's perimeter, so we have to add the lengths of all the sides together. So we have to add that length, and then this length. We have to add all three lengths together. So we're going to do x, add 2x, add 2x plus 11. That's what we're going to do. We've just added all these three sides together. So let's deal with the x's first. We know that the x's, we have x plus 2x plus 2x. X plus 2x is 3x. 3x plus 2x is 5x. So we have 5x, and then we have plus 11, which is just by itself, so plus 11. So we have 5x plus 11. And that's the simplified perimeter of this triangle that we have. So perimeter of triangle. So we know what the perimeter of the triangle is, and we know what the perimeter of the rectangle is. Okay, these two. Now what does the question say? The question says that the perimeter of the rectangle is equal to the perimeter of the triangle. So we know that this is the perimeter of the rectangle. We know that this is the perimeter of the triangle. We know that they are equal to each other. So all we're going to do is we're going to get this thing over here. This is 6x plus 4. That's the perimeter of the rectangle. And we know that it's equal to the perimeter of the triangle. So we're going to put an equal sign in because we know it's equal. And then on the other side, we're going to put this thing, which is the perimeter of the triangle. So 5x plus 11. Okay. Now we've got ourselves an equation. We formed ourselves the equation. We're now going to solve it. So we're going to move all the x's onto one side, and we're going to move all the numbers onto the other side. So we have a 6x on this side. Let's move this 5x to the other side. So we have all the x's on one side. So we're going to subtract 5x, and whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side as well. So we're going to subtract 5x from this side as well. Okay, and that's going to get rid of the 5x that was on that side. So now we're going to have 6x minus 5x, which is just x, plus 4, and that's equal to 11. And then we need to get rid of this plus 4 and move it to the other side. To get rid of something, you do the opposite of it. So instead of adding 4, you're going to subtract 4. And whatever you do to one side, you're going to do the same to the other side. That's going to get rid of this plus 4. So now you're going to have x equals 11 minus 4. 11 minus 4 is 7, so that means x is just equal to 7. So it said find the value of x, and we found out the value of x. The value of x is 7. So x equals 7. So this is what we did a couple of lessons back. It was just a recap question for today's lesson. And this is about forming and solving equations. We formed an equation to start off with, and then we have solved it to work out what x is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to today's lesson. We're going to be looking at what angles in parallel lines are. And with this, the content that you need to know is that there are just some rules. Okay, and I'm going to introduce them now. So there are different types of angles. Now, what is a parallel line? A parallel line is literally two lines which go parallel to each other. They never meet each other. They are literally going in the same direction and they will never meet each other. This is not a parallel line because it's eventually going to meet. This is a parallel line because they will never meet. Okay, and you normally have like an arrow pointing in a direction that it's going in. That's showing that it's a parallel line. Okay, and normally with parallel lines, you have a line running through it like that. And there are 4 rules that you need to know about parallel lines. And they're quite simple. Okay, so the first one is corresponding angles. Okay, now corresponding angles are basically F angles. Okay, so that's the letter that you need to remember, F angles. So over here we've got some examples. We've got a set of parallel lines. As you can see, we've got parallel lines running horizontally, and then we've got a line going through the center. Now, as you can see, if we look at this example, we can see an F which is being formed. You can see that upside down F that's being formed. And what that tells us is that the angles inside the F, they are going to be the exact same. So these two angles are going to be the exact same. So in this F, what it's basically saying, when you can spot F, the two angles which are inside the F, they are going to be the exact same. So when we look at the next example, this time we've got another F shape. We've got it going this way. Okay, you can still see the F in red. The angles which are inside this F, they are going to be the same. Okay, when we have a look at this example, we can see another F. As you can see, we can see an F. And as you can see, the angles which are inside the F, they are exactly the same. And finally, over here, we have an upside down right to left F. And as you can see, the angles which are inside the F, they are the exact same. So that's the first type of angle that you need to be aware of. It's called corresponding angles. And the wording is really important because in terms of corresponding alternate vertically opposite angles, people get confused with them. And normally, if this question does come up in an exam, it's normally a good amount of marks, a decent amount of marks, maybe a 4 marker or a 5 marker, and you have to explain your answer. Okay, so the first wording that you need to know is corresponding angles. They are F angles. The angles which are inside the F are equal. The next type of example that you need to know is alternate angles. Now, alternate angles, you have to look for another letter, and this time it's a Z shaped. Okay, it's Z shaped. So over here, when we look at this example, we can see a Z shape being formed. Okay, so as you can see, there is a Z shape over here. And what this is saying is that the angles which are within the Z, they are going to be equal. So as you can see, these two angles are within the Z, they are going to be equal. When we have a look at a Z, you can see that there are two angles which are formed by the Z. These two angles are going to be equal. That's what alternate angles tell you. Okay, so over here we have a back to front Z, still a Z, it's just back to front. And as you can see, the angles which are within the Z, this angle and this angle, both of them are equal. So that's what alternate angles are telling us. Corresponding angles are F angles. The angles within an F, they are going to be equal. Alternate angles are basically telling you spot the Z. And the angles that are within the Z, they are going to be equal. And then finally, we've got vertically opposite angles. Now, vertically opposite angles, you're going to be looking for the X. Okay, so as you can see over here, we have an X shaped. And what it tells you is that the angles that are opposite in an X, so these angles, these are opposite angles. The opposite angles in an X, they are going to be equal. Okay, so in this case, you have an X as well. The opposite angles that are within the X are going to be equal. Okay, even these angles, the ones that I've colored in red, these angles are going to be equal to each other. Okay, so the opposite angles are going to be equal to each other. That's what vertically opposite means. Okay, so as you can see, we have another X over here, and the opposite angles in an X are going to be equal. Okay, so opposite angles within the X are equal. So that's corresponding angles, alternate angles, and then vertically opposite angles. Three key ones that you need to know. Now there's another one that we're going to look at on the next slide, but these are the three letters that you need to be aware of. F for corresponding, Z for alternate, and X for vertically opposite. And there's another letter which we'll look on at the next slide. So when you're given an exam question with angles in parallel lines, you are ultimately looking for the letters, and the letters will allow you to spot which rule is being used. And in your answer, in your explanation, you're going to have to write down the rule. Okay, so those are corresponding, alternate, vertically opposite. Most ones that people get confused with is corresponding and alternate. They always get them the opposite way around. But just make sure corresponding is F. Z is alternate. Okay, if you're a football fan, you can think of it as FC. So FC, so you have corresponding, and F is your F angle. So that can be a way that you can use to remember. But those are the three key ones that you need to know. The fourth one is over here. These are called co-interior angles. And the shape that you have to spot for co-interior angles is a C. Okay, a robotic C basically. You're gonna be looking for a C within co-interior angles. So as you can see, if we look at this example, we can see that a C is being formed over here. And this rule is a bit different. This rule tells you that the angles within the C, so these two angles, they're not going to be equal. They're going to add up to 180 degrees. These two angles within the C are going to add up to 180 degrees. So these two angles within the C are going to add to 180 180 degrees. Okay, so that's what they tell you. So as you can see, we have a back to front C over here. And as you can see, we have two angles. Now, these two angles are not going to be equal. They are going to add up to 180 degrees. And same over here. When you can spot the C shape, that tells you that the angles within the C shape, they are going to add to 180 degrees. These three over here, they are going to be equal. When you have corresponding angles, F-shaped, the angles within the F are going to be equal. Alternate angles, you have a Z-shaped. And the angles within the Z are going to be equal. Vertically opposite angles literally are vertically opposite, they're going to be equal. When you have co-interior angles, you have C-shaped angles. And the angles which are within the C, they're going to add up to 180 degrees. Okay? And that's basically the content that you need to know. We're going to get straight into some exam questions now. And we're going to have a look at different types and we'll increase difficulty as we go through the lesson today. Okay, so first exam question we'll go through. It says over here, this is sort of what you can expect in an exam question. So it says AB and CD are parallel lines. As you can see, AB and CD, they are literally running horizontal to each other. They are parallel lines. You can see that by the arrow that they have used to show as well. That means parallel lines. It says write down the size of angle X. Now, if it says write down the size of angle X, where is angle X? This is angle X. Now, let's see if we can spot anything. Or we can spot this angle, which is completely opposite to that angle X. Now, what rule do you spot over here? We can spot that there is an X shape. Okay, there is an X shaped being formed. And if there is an X, and we know that the angles which are opposite in an X, they are going to be equal. So that means if this angle is 53, that means that X is also going to be 53 because they are vertically opposite to each other. So it's just going to be 53 degrees. And our reasoning for the answer is going to be that angle X is vertically opposite. So angle X is vertically opposite to 53 degrees. That's what our reasoning is going to be because we can spot that X shaped. That's why it's vertically opposite. Now, if we look at the next question, it says write down the size of angle Y. Okay, so writing down the size of angle Y, where is angle Y? We can see that angle Y is over here. Now, is there any shapes that we can see being formed? Okay, now there are two shapes that you should see being formed. We can see that, I'll draw this in a different color. Okay, so if we have a look at this over here, we can see that with angle Y, we can see that there is an F being formed. There is an upside down F, as you can see. And what does an F tell you? It tells you that the angles which are within the F, they are going to be equal. Okay, so if that means that X is the same as Y, because the two angles which are inside the F is Y and X. That means that both of them are going to be equal. And we know that X is 53 degrees. So that means Y should also be 53 degrees. Okay, so angle Y is going to be 53 degrees. Why is it going to be 53 degrees? Well, it's going to be 53 degrees because it is corresponding. You have to use the terminology corresponding. Remember, it's an F that we have used. It is corresponding with angle X. Okay, because we've used angle X to work out what angle Y is. So we would say angle Y is corresponding with angle X. Okay. Now, there was another shape that you could have saw with this. This wasn't the only possible answer. explanation, you could have also found this shape, which I'm going to draw out now. So with y, you could have also drawn a shape like this. So we've got this, we can go like this, and we can form a z as well. Okay, we can form this z shape. And what does that z shape tell you? Z shape tells you alternate angles. And the angles which are within the z, they are going to be equal. Okay? So we know that the angles which are within the z, these two angles which are within the z, they're going to be equal. So if this is 53 degrees, this is also going to be 53 degrees. It tells you that both of them are going to be the same. Okay? So either way, we would have got the same exact answer of 53 degrees. So that's how you would work out questions like this. Obviously, it will be a bit more difficult in an exam, but ultimately, you're going to be looking for shapes. If you can find the shapes, the F, the Z, the X, and the C, those four shapes, if you can find, well, letters, then it's going to make your life much easier. Okay, so a question for you guys to have a go at. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to have a go at this question. What is angle X? Type your answer into the Q&A or scan this QR code to type your answer into the form if you don't have access to the Q&A. Okay, I'll give you guys just one more minute and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, so I've got a lot of answers in on both the form and in the Q&A. I'll start going through the answers now. Okay, so it says A, B, and CD are parallel lines, as you can see that from the arrow. Find the size of angle X and give a reason for your answer. So when we're having a look at this, where is angle X? We can see that angle X is over here. This is our angle X. Now let's see if we can form any shapes with angle X. So let's keep going up. Can we form any shape? Let's go to the other parallel line. Can we form any shape? Yes, we can. We can form this shape. We can form this C-short shape, as you can see. And what do we know about C shapes? We know that co-interior is C shape. So co-interior equals C shaped. Okay, and what do we know about co-interior angles? We know that co-interior angles add to 180 degrees. So over here, we know that this is 32. Okay, we need to work out this. And we know that both of those angles must add up to 180 degrees. So 32 add something is 180. So you're going to do 180, subtract 32. and that's going to get you 148 degrees. So angle X is going to be 148 degrees. And your reasoning that you would say is that co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. And if you would like, you could have put your working out as well in here. 180 subtract 32, and that gives you 148. Okay, so that's where your marks are coming from in this question. So we're going to increase the difficulty slowly. So we've got another question over here. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to have a go at this question, have a think about it. You can type your answer into the Q&A once you've had a go at it. And then I'll start going through the answers in a couple of minutes. Okay, so you might be using more than one rule in questions like this. And there are multiple ways to work questions like this out. I'll give you guys just one more minute and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, so we've got quite a few responses in the form and we have some responses in the Q&A. We'll start going through it now. So over here, you're going to be using two rules. Okay, so it says AB and CD are parallel lines. It says EFG is an isosceles triangle. Angle AEG equals 110 degrees. Find the size of the angle FGD. So when we're having a look at this, where is FGD? FGD is this angle, the middle letter, which is labeled FGD. That's our angle that we need to work out. So in order to work out that angle, what can we use? We can't really use anything because we don't know what, we only know one angle. So what sides link together? So if you've got this, we can see that this letter is forming. We can see a Z is being formed, but we don't know what this angle is. Okay, but can we work that angle out? We can see that a Z has been formed, but can we work out what this angle is formed? If we can work out what this angle is, then we can work out what the unknown angle there is, what angle X is going to be. So let's work with this 110 degrees that we have. We have 110 degrees here. And what do we know? We know that this is on a line. Okay, this is 110 degrees and this is a line. This is a straight line that is present. So this is not an angle rule. This is just a general rule that you would know. We know that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so we know that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. That's what we know. So when we have a look at this, we can see that this is a straight line because these are parallel lines. This is a straight line over here. If this is 110, that means that this angle must be 180 subtract 110. 180 subtract 110 is going to get you 70 degrees. Okay, so that means that angle there is 70 degrees. Now, what do these lines show us? These lines on the triangle. Okay, so we have these lines on the triangle. Now, what do these lines show us? These lines show us that those sides are equal in length. So if those sides are equal in length, that means that the angles must be equal in length as well. So if this is 70, this is an example of an isosceles triangle because two sides are equal in length. That must also mean that the two bottom angles are also equal in length. So this angle is equal in length to this angle. So this is going to be 70 degrees as well. Okay, now what did we do? We drew the shape out, this Z shape, and we know that the inside angles of a Z shape are equal in length. So if this is 70 degrees, this one is also going to be 70 degrees. So this is going to be 70 degrees. That's what X is going to be. So our explanation, we saw that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. We also used the fact that opposite angles in an isosceles triangle are equal in length. So over here, opposite angles in an isosceles triangle, they are equal in length, as you can see. And then we finally used that alternate angles, Z angles, are equal in length. So alternate angles are equal in length. So those are the facts that we used, and we saw that the final answer was 70 degrees. Okay, so moving on to our next question. This is our next question. Again, we're getting harder slowly and slowly. So this time you have to label them yourself. So first of all, I'd advise you that you draw out this shape that we have over here. Draw out the shape, label what you know from the question, and then slowly start working it out. Can you spot any shapes within this? Can you spot any letters within the shape? Can you use those to work out what the missing angle is? I'll give you guys a couple of minutes and then I'll start going through the answers. Once you have an answer again, you can let me know in the Q&A or that scan the QR code and let me know your answer there. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Okay, I'll give you guys just one more minute and then I'll start going through the answers. Okay, I'm going to start going through the answers now to this question. So this was again getting a bit slightly harder. So let's label first what we know from the question. So it says over here, AB and CD are parallel. So we can see that because they've got the arrows on them. They are parallel, which means that they will never meet. It says angle HIK, which one's that? We can see H to I to K is this one over here. I'll just look at the middle letter, angle I, H to I to K. That angle there is 85 degrees. So let's label that 85 degrees. It then says angle BFH is 32. So B to F to H, this angle over here that we have is 32 degrees. Okay, so we're given two angles from the details in the question. Okay. Now it says find the size of the angle FEG. Which one's that? So F to E to G. So it's asking us to find out this angle. So this is angle X that we have. That's the angle that we need to work out. And you must show how you got your answer. So this is probably going to be around 4 marks in an exam. So let's look at this carefully. Are there any shapes that we can find? Okay, so if we have a look, we can see that we have vertically opposite. So we want to get as close as we can to this X. Okay, so we have an X shape over here, an X shaped that's being formed. So because we have an X shape, we know that this angle over here is going to be the same as the one which is vertically opposite to it. So this one's going to be 32 degrees. So we're just going to write that down, EFG. That's the how you would define the angle. We have angle EFG, and that's going to be equal to 32 degrees. Why is angle EFG equal to 32 degrees? Well, it's because it is vertically opposite. Okay, so as vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, so that's our reasoning for that part. So we know that. Now, as you can see, we can see like a triangle shape being formed over here. We can see that we have like a triangular sort of shape being formed over here. And what do we know about a triangle? We know that all the angles in a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. So that means if we can work out this angle over here, then we can work out what angle X is, because we know that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So how can we work out that angle? Let's see if there's any letters that we can form using that angle. Okay, so we've got this angle over here. So we can form like an F shape. We can form this F shape over here. And this angle would be equal to this angle, but we don't know what this angle is. We know that this angle over here is 85 degrees, and we know that this angle and 85-degree angle lies on the same straight line. So we can work out what GIH is going to be. So GIH is going to be, we know that this is 85 degrees, so the other side is going to be 180 subtract 85 degrees. Why is it going to be 180 subtract 85 degrees? Because angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So 180 subtract 85 is going to get you an answer of 95 degrees. So this question mark is going to be 95 degrees. And our reasoning for that is because we've got a straight line over here. We've got a straight line. This is 180 degrees. So this one is going to be 180 subtract 85 degrees. So as angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. That's how we know GIH is 95 degrees. Now we've worked out that question mark. We know that angles within an F, we can see that this F has been formed, that I've just drawn out. This F has been formed. The angles within an F are going to be equal. So that means that EGF, so we have EGF, so E to G to F, that angle is going to be 95 degrees as well, because it is corresponding with the other angle. So corresponding angles are equal. Okay, so that's what we have. So now we know that this angle over here is 95 degrees, and this angle over here is 32 degrees. We can work out what this angle X is going to be, because angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So 90 add 32 add something gives you 180 degrees. So to work out that something, you're going to do 180, subtract 90, subtract 32. So 95, not 90. Okay, subtract 95, subtract 32, and that's going to get you your blank angle X. Okay, so 180 subtract 95, subtract 32 is going to get you an answer of 53 degrees. So 53 degrees is your angle X. And our reasoning for that is that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. That's our reasoning. So as you can see, we've gone through each stage and we've written down the answer that we have got for each stage, and we have also written down our explanation. And that's what you would require to gain maximum marks on this question, to gain full marks on this question. And it also ensures that you can pick up your marks as you move through the question all the way.